Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you to those of us joining us here on campus, as well as those of you joining us online today. My name is Christopher Woodward. I'm a course director with Entertainment Business Masters. I'm hosting this session, which is entitled Freelancer Finance. Please put your hands together. Welcome, owner of Stickman Sound, 1997 graduate, and in a couple of hours, about to be inducted into the Full Sail Hall of Fame, Fernando Delgado.
Hello, everybody.
So anybody following Hall of Fame this week, you've been all over the place, numerous panels talking about numerous things. But for this panel, this was your idea. This was your topic. You wanted to talk about money.
I wanted to talk about money.
And just briefly, why did you want to talk about money in this panel today?
Well, I've been out of school for just over 20 years, and I've been running my business for 15 plus years now. And up until about 5 years ago, I was probably the dumbest person when it came to money out there. And I made a lot of really bad mistakes. And in the time that I've gotten my financial act together, my life has improved in ways that people really genuine and honestly cannot comprehend. And it's allowed me to come back to Full Sail a lot over the last 5 years and talk to students who are asking me questions that are leading them to the exact same mistakes that I was making when I was a student. The biggest problem in the country right now is debt. And most of you took out loans and are thinking about maybe borrowing money when you get out of school for equipment or computers or even a car because you've been footing it since you've been a student here or whatever that is. And those are just really, really, really bad choices. So I thought, rather than just come here to talk about audio and talk about what I do for a living and the skills that Full Sail gave me, I thought it would really be a great thing to talk to you guys about not making the same stupid mistakes that I made for years and years and years.
You know, we talk about finance, and I talk about this often. It astounds me because you can get a high school diploma, you can get a college degree, never take a finance course, never learn about money. You know, we tell everyone, okay, here's money, or go make money, and other than spend it, we don't explain, interest rates and credit cards and loans and how these things can come back. And so many of our students here are entrepreneurs. There are people who have this dream of owning their own business.
Right.
And obviously, they have a passion for doing what they do, but understanding the financial side of it. And for so many students, there's three places you can get money from. It's either coming out of your own pocket, if you don't have any money there, investors or loans. But the loans can be a really dangerous pitfall. And it's something that you've mentioned to me about debt and loans. I wonder if maybe you could share your mistakes when it came to loans and debt.
Well, it's really easy. Borrowing money is stupid. That's the whole conversation. Borrowing money is stupid. So if you have student loans, your goal in life should be to pay those student loans off and to never borrow money again. If you have credit cards, and a lot of parents are going to tell you that I'm crazy, and that I'm smoking crack, and that I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but I don't have a credit card. I haven't had a credit card in 5 years, and as soon as the Equifax breach happened, I froze my credit. I had been looking for an excuse for 5 years to freeze my credit. But everybody in my world, everybody close to me, anybody even that I was getting advice from as far as finances was saying, well, first off, you need a credit card. You can't survive without it. False. I haven't had a credit card in 5 years, and I've been traveling the world doing my job with a debit card. Works exactly the same. So that's a big false statement right there. And people say you have to have credit to survive. And I say also false, because I've been living a cash-only life for the last 5 years. And the only thing that has really changed in my life is I've forced myself to be patient.
So patience, and that kind of falls into that live within your means.
Live within your means, buy what you can afford. And the thing that's really interesting too, so if I have a credit card and I want to buy a piece of equipment because I think it's going to benefit me or I'm going to be working with it or whatever, I'm not going to feel that purchase when I slide that credit card. But when I write a check for $5,000 for a piece of equipment and I've already earned that money, I feel it. which means I think about that purchase more and I really scrutinize that purchase more. And ultimately, that purchase ends up going further for me rather than sitting on a shelf collecting dust, not working because I needed it for one job, but I didn't have the foresight to realize that that was the only place that I was going to use it. So instead of renting and maybe not making money on that piece of equipment, but killing it for the client so they call me back, or renting that piece of equipment and maybe marking it up 20% so that I can make something worth my effort for doing the pickup and all that, a lot of people just go buy, and now you're sitting on a payment for something that's sitting on the shelf.
Gathering dust.
Sounds stupid to me.
I think that's a big thing. So many people have that instant gratification need, and so many people have that buy now, pay later mentality.
Yeah.
And they don't think about what's the future benefit, what's the future cash flows of buying this piece of equipment. As you said, do I really need it? Do I not need it? But let's go back. What about a student who are coming fresh out of full sail? They have student loans that they have to pay back. They're so anxious, and they see that credit card as the jump start.
Right.
And this is the term that comes up a lot is, what about the things I need? I need this to edit, or I need this to record, or I need this to shoot. What about those situations where they feel like if they don't put it on a credit card or take out a loan, they're not gonna be able to get started? How do they get the funds, I guess, to get started then?
Borrow.
Beg,
rent. The thing is, people have the resources. The resources are already out there. And it's not the equipment you need, it's the relationships. So what better way to establish a relationship with somebody that's doing something that you want to be doing than by maybe renting their equipment from them or borrowing their equipment from them? I know a lot of people that are just starting out, and somebody will say, Fernando, I was thinking about purchasing this microphone and da-da-da-da-da. What do you think? And I tell them, I think you should go to my office, grab one off the shelf, take it out in the field, and listen to it and see if you like it before you spend $1,200 on a microphone. I think that really the big thing is the patience, because if it's kind of like buying a car. Why do the salesmen pressure you after the test drive to buy the car? Because you're excited about it. You're making an impulse buy on something that is very, very expensive. And those salespeople are trying to capitalize on that. It's really no different, right? You're going to make a smarter purchase if you walk away from it and think about it for a while and analyze, do I really need it? Because 99% of the time, I'd be willing to bet that you don't. That if you just come up with a creative way to meet whatever need it is that you think you have, it's all about being creative. It's not about spending money. It's about being frugal.
It's the need versus want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which we don't see a lot of. You've talked about how you made mistakes.
Big mistakes.
Well, I was going to ask you about your aha moment when you realized you had made mistakes, but looking back, what do you think the biggest financial mistake you made was? And was there a specific one, or was it like a string of them?
Oh, no, it was, I believe in long, lengthy pain. Right? So when I first started my business, essentially the reason I started my business was because I had a really hard time finding companies that supplied equipment for what I did that offered service that was up to the standard that I feel like I deserve when I'm renting equipment. So that is ultimately why I started my company. But how I got to actually have the resources was probably the dumbest way to go about it, because I did everything I did on a whim. So client calls me, says, hey, Fernando, we've got a 6-week show shooting. This is what the requirements are. And I go, okay, well, I don't have that, I don't have that, I don't have that. What I should have done is I should have called my buddy that works at a rental house and said, yo, brother, I'm about to hook you up with a fat rental. What kind of discounts can you offer me so that I can take what money I was making from that and save it to build my own equipment list? But I didn't do that. I applied for loans, I applied for credit cards, just anything that I could get that had miles or any of that other, BS that they sell you. And I started putting everything on credit cards. And then the next show, I'd get a call for the next show, let's say 2 weeks before a show is going to end. Okay, well, I'm going to take all this gear that I just bought, and some of it, not all of it, is going to go on to the next job. But now I got to get da 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 da, right? So I go and I borrow more. Well, fast forward, I want to say maybe about 8 years, I was outrunning my stupidity for 8 years. And then one day I wake up and I don't know if we had just come off of doing taxes or something, but I made money. I was like, holy bejesus, I never thought I could make this much money in a year, right? I didn't have any money. I didn't have any money because every single check that came in was already allocated to somebody else. So I didn't have any money. I didn't have any savings. I didn't have any health insurance. I didn't have anything. And I had a family. We're a family of 4. So, you know, and it wasn't until that moment where I was like, I need to do something about this. I need to start paying off my debts and getting rid of this burden on me.
And you mentioned, and it's the difference between revenue and profit. You know, you could look at your business and go, oh my God, what is success? You've got all these clients, you're doing all this business,
Absolutely.
You're working your tail off, and the revenue number is super high. But by the time the expenses, and most of those being debt and interest on that debt that you paid off, you got nothing.
You got nothing.
You know, you're the poorest success story in town.
It was like
that
MC
point.
Hammer.
You know, another one who
Yeah.
pulling all the money, and all the money's going out there. Well, he got ripped off too, but we could do a
I
whole
didn't get
panel
ripped
on
off.
that.
I was just stupid.
But now, when you had the moment when you looked at, you know, that tax, you said, I'm working my tail off, I'm making all this money, but I don't have any money. What did you do? Because we're going to have students who, hopefully nobody listening today, but there are students who right now, and alumni who are doing what you did.
Right.
They're a success. Money's coming in, but the money's also going out. They made those same moves, and
Right.
they're, as you mentioned, outrunning the debt. You know, they're making just enough to stay ahead of those payments. When you realized that you had to make a change, how did you do it? Like, how did you handle the fact that, okay, I've got to make these payments. Can you work more? Okay, what was the first moves you made?
The first thing that I did is I stopped spending. I recognized right away that my spending was out of control. I love equipment. I get really excited. It was like Christmas in my office, like every week for years, I was opening up brand new packages of equipment. And so we stopped that flat for over a year. I didn't buy anything other than was absolutely essential, and we had meetings about it. Mm-hmm. Do we really need this, or can we sub-rent it? Because I don't want to spend any money. So I cut my salary in half. We started basically just chipping away at everything. And I attacked all of my smallest debts first, and I moved up. So my smallest debts were my credit card debts, and I had probably owed my dad some money for some equipment, or, you know, there were just lots of stupid purchases and a lot of debt. So I just basically took the smallest debt, made all my minimum payments, paid extra on the smallest debt. So let's say it was $50 payment, right? And I had $75 extra that month. I'd put that $75. Once that payment was gone, I would take that whole payment and apply it to the next smallest one. And then I'd do the same thing over and over again.
So we call that the snowball method.
Yeah, and actually Dave Ramsey does a very similar kind of program.
You're already used to paying that amount, so it's not like you're paying more.
Yep.
It's just now moving on to the next
Well,
account.
and once I realized that it wasn't my money anyway, and I wasn't really living on it anyway, I was just being a filter. Mm-hmm. It just made it a lot easier, you know.
How long did it take you? Because you mentioned you're debt-free now. You
Yes.
live a cash-only life. How long was the process from realization to debt?
For my personal finances, it took me a little over a year, I think. I was always, because of my business, the debt was mostly on my business. So personally today, I am completely debt-free with the exception of my home, but my goal in life right now is to just, like, as soon as Hall of Fame is over, my goal is to go to work and to not stop until I hold the deed to my home. And I'll explain why in a little why that's really important. My business took about 3 years to get everything completely paid off because we had lines of credit, you know, that had zeros on it. And
Lots of zeros.
more zeros than I was comfortable with. And so it did take us a little while to pay those off. And then basically what I did after that is I saved. I have 6 months worth of living expenses in my bank account and in my safe at home. And it's really funny. Things that you would think are an emergency, when you are financially secure, are not an emergency. And I'll give you an example. My wife, her dad has recently passed away, but he was sick for a very long time. And there was one time where we were about to go on a vacation. We were actually loading the family to get in the car to head to the airport. And he calls, he lives in Los Angeles, we live in Las Vegas. He calls us, he says, I'm in the hospital. Well, we're not going on vacation, right? If I had debts, we would have used credit to get my wife to her father. We would have used credit for her to take care of him and whatever he needed. But that's not what happened in this instance. What happened was I said, okay, we're not going on vacation. I'm going to stay here and take care of the kids and hold down the fort. I went to the safe. I grabbed $500. I gave her 5 crisp $100 bills. I said, go take care of your dad. So she went to the gas station, filled up her gas tank, went to her dad, went, took care of him, filled up his refrigerator with all sorts of good, healthy food. And then she came back home. She gave me like $200 back, right? And when she handed me that money, I realized this wasn't an emergency. This was just a, oops.
It was an emergency, but not a financial emergency.
Yeah, I mean, did we need to change our plans and go take care of them? Yes. But did it screw us up later? Did I have to pay for that later? No, because it was already paid for. And then all I did was the money that I am normally saving now, I stopped saving for that month or 2 months or however long it was. I put that money back into my safe, and then I diverted those funds right back to what I was saving for.
Now, you bring up a great point, and you mentioned business and personal. I want to talk about kind of separating the two, but the 6 months. You go to any financial expert, and they tell you 6 months living expenses is a great safety net. If you go for business, they tell you you should be able to run your business for 6 months without any revenue coming in. And that includes producing products, not just services. If you could run your business at normal operating levels, providing whatever product, whatever service you do for 6 months without any revenue coming in, that's the goal. And getting to that goal, again, it comes back to time. You know, I'm sure you didn't have 6 months living expenses within a year. It took
No, it took a while.
You know, but if you start now and you start saving and saving, it builds up. And as you said, you don't have that issue where, you know, something bad happens professionally. You lose a gig, you know, here in Florida, you know, we have hurricanes, you know, you got no foot traffic coming into your store for 3 weeks,
Right.
you know, but you're okay. You survive it. It gives you that peace of mind. And again, you can use it for those, we could call them, I guess, minor emergencies, and then you just replace it later, and then you carry on.
Well, and even more importantly, your footprint is smaller. That's how it's affected. That's how all of this has affected my life the most, right? I used to have to work 20 days a month minimum. And I'm just talking my labor outside of Stickman and the equipment rental and all that stuff. In order for me to pay my personal bills, I had to work at least 20 days a month. It was usually more because I was really stupid. Now, I can work 5 days a month and I can pay my mortgage and I can feed my family and my wife and I can go to a nice dinner once a week and I don't have to stress. So think about what that does. Now, because I don't have to earn more money, I can hold out and wait for that project that I actually care about to start up. Or I can take a week off and go party down at Full Sail, right? I wouldn't be here right now if I was in the same financial position that I was before because I never would have made it to Full Sail to give back. I would have never made those 3 or 4 trips a year that I've been able to make to come and hang out with all of you guys on campus, which, by the way, is just as much for me as it is for you. I get recharged when I come here. So before I was burnt out, I was tired, I was miserable, and that affected my personal life, it affected my professional life, it affected everything. Today, I don't have to go to work when I get home. I'm gonna go to work because I love what I do, but I can chill for 6 months if I want to. I'm not going to because I get bored really easy and I love what I do, but I have that flexibility. So if I get a call from a client that I don't like and they say, hey man, we want to do this job with you, I can say, call so-and-so instead because I don't need it.
And we have, you know, the creative people in a room, and they think about that, to not have to take the gig you don't want.
Yeah.
I don't want to make that movie. I don't want to work with that artist. I don't want to deal with, well, that person's drama, that person's just, you can say no.
Oh, yeah.
And you have that creative freedom of, I don't have to do the gigs I don't want. I can work on the gigs I want to work on.
Right.
I can be creative. And really, the word that comes to mind, independence. You have that creative freedom and independence.
Yeah, well, and think about the quality of work you do when you actually want to be there, you know, opposed to going out. I mean, everybody, I'm sure all of you have heard from everybody all week about the long days and the long hours, and you got to grind it out. And sometimes you don't get any sleep for a couple days because it's all about the work, all about the work, all about the work, right? Well, burnout happens. I bet nobody talked to you guys about that. Burnout's real. People get tired. And at the end of the day, you're not going to perform at your best unless you're rested and unless you're in a good mental place. Since I got my debts paid off, I sleep like a log. Nothing wakes me up. And people are like, I don't see how you can do that. I'm on a plane and I got a baby crying next to me. I'm out like a light. Why? Because I don't have to worry about anything. I just don't have to worry about it. My biggest worry in life is, well, my kids, but I'm not worried about taking care of them. I'm not worried about them eating or not having a home to live in anymore. And so that is not only elevated my relationships with my family, but it's really elevated the quality of the work that I have been able to put out. And I notice it. I can tell the difference between something that I mixed 5 years ago and something that I mixed last week. It just sounds better.
So, I often talk, when I talk with students, it's the three things: time, cost, and quality. Because you've controlled your finances, the cost isn't the issue. The money's not the issue. And as a result, you have more time because you're not spending your time worrying about your money,
Right.
trying to pay those bills. So then you have more time. Because you have more time and because you don't have to worry about cost, your quality goes up.
Exactly.
Because you can take your time doing the work and not worry about it. So it all flows together.
And you get hungrier. As I'm sure a lot of you can imagine, Hall of Fame, just getting an announcement that you're going to be inducted into something like this is mind-blowing. I haven't been able to think about anything since about the beginning of the year. So I haven't taken any work because I'm honest with myself and I'm honest with my clients. I'm not going to be any good to you because while you're calling roll, I'm thinking Saley, right? I'm not thinking about your project right now because today Hall of Fame is the most important thing to me. So I haven't worked in 6 weeks and it's cool. My bills are going to get paid, right? Everybody is going to go home and we're going to eat. The lights are still going to be on. And I am so ready to go do a show. I am so ready to go do a show.
Your motivation's there. Everything.
I'm chomping at the bit because I haven't really done any real mixing in a while. It's actually been a little over a year since I've done a full length show. I've just been doing a lot of day playing over the last 18 months or so. So this last 6 weeks of not even doing that very much, I'm just chomping at the bit. I want to go record something. Yeah.
You're motivated, but you still got another speech later you got to do too. Just remember that,
Yeah, whatever.
On the stage, big one. I know it's not as cool as this, but you have to go do that. So, I want to talk a little bit about advice. One of the things is there's so many people out there, especially in this day and age, that will tell people how to manage or how to mismanage their money. Oh, you should do this. Oh, you should do that. One of the ones that always comes up is, people will tell, go buy a house as soon as possible, because it's good for your credit and it's better to buy the rent.
You can write off the interest.
You can write off the interest. And they tell a person who has student loans, who's probably going to be moving 10 times for their career, go buy a house now. You mentioned earlier about your house and how that's, I guess, your last financial goal really is to pay off your house now.
Yeah, well, that'll be the last time I ever borrow money. Once I get the deed to my house, if I move or if I do anything else, it's cash.
It's cash.
I'm never going to upgrade my home. So my kids are older and they're probably eventually going to go away. So if anything, we're going to downsize. But I'm always going to pay cash. I'm never going to borrow money after my home is paid off.
What's your advice to these students that are getting hit with all of this financial advice and do this, buy this, use this, don't do that?
Don't listen to anybody but me.
Track record.
Don't listen to anybody but me. I would say the biggest advice I would give is think about the risk. because that's the one thing that nobody thinks about, and that's the one thing that nobody talks about when they're telling you to borrow money. Nobody talks about the risk. Nobody says what's going to happen if you can't make payments for a little while, you know? And like you said, you never know when something is going to happen. I came off a show a few years ago. On the very last day that I was supposed to work on this show, my son got hit by a car. He broke 5 bones, and he was in the hospital, went through a whole bunch of surgeries. It took 8 weeks before he was kind of somewhat back to normal. I didn't work. And this was actually right in the middle of us getting our financial act together. And so I didn't work. I didn't even answer my phone. So if
that's understandable from a parent point of view. Of course you wouldn't.
Right.
But from a bill collector point of view,
they don't care.
They don't.
Where's my money?
So that obviously delayed you for that period of time.
It did a little bit, but because we had already started the process, we were already in a better position than we would have been had we not already started. So, and that's the other thing to realize is nobody, you know, in this process, oh yeah, it sounds really easy. You go to work, you pay off your debts, life is going to happen. There's going to be hurdles and obstacles and all these other things. And the trick really is navigating those things with the long-term goal in mind. You know, so you don't really need to spend money on this little emergency, do you? You know, think of creative ways to work around those things. But I would say more than anything, just don't borrow money. If you take that off the table as an option, it'll force creative results. You'll think of other ways to get by.
And you will actually get by and succeed, which is another big point of it. You know, again, we can kind of shout things at people all they want. You're the example. You made the mistakes, but now you're debt-free.
I am debt-free.
And
I'm
your
so
business
proud.
is successful. And the revenue that comes in, a lot more of that is profit at the end.
Right. Well, and we were talking about losing a big client. So about a year and a half ago, I lost my biggest client. They were bringing in enough money annually for me to just pay for my staff and run my office and not have to worry about any other jobs all year. I did 2 seasons of Ultimate Fighter, and I was able to employ 12 or 13 people, and we had so much freaking gear on this job, and I was on it for 7 years. And we made all sorts of really great money for a long time. Well, it went away. Had I not gotten my financial act together while I was on that show, I'd be out of business today. I didn't even think I was going to be in business in January because it was such a huge financial hit. But because I had 6 months of money saved, I don't today, by the way, we're still recovering. But
it takes time.
I had 6 months worth of revenue to run my company and to pay my people and to do all these things in place. So it bought me time. I didn't have to revert back to frantic. It bought me time.
I have to take a gig as soon as possible.
I didn't have to fire anybody. All I had to do was reduce my pay. So I cut my pay in half, and my wife, thankfully, she's a nurse now, has helped pick up the slack to kind of balance things out on our personal side just a little bit, but I haven't had to lay anybody off. And even going into January, when I looked at the numbers comparatively, I was bummed. I'm like, man, this is horrible. This sucks. But then Crystal, who runs my office for me, says, yeah, you didn't do a full-length show all year last year. It was the first time in 15 years you haven't done a full-length show to bring in revenue to this company, and we're all still here. So she was like, you know, those systems that we put in place financially a couple years ago saved our asses today. And it bought us time to go make new relationships with new clients and rekindle old relationships because I was working with this group for so long, I had, I guess, not given the attention to some other clients that maybe I should have over the years. So it's bought me time.
It bought you time, which again, time.
And I'm still able to come here.
Yes, and do this, and your business is still running. And like
they're
you
at
said,
home.
Nobody got laid
they're
off.
home, cranking it out right now as we speak. So, yeah.
Yeah. We have a little bit of time to get maybe 1 or 2 questions in here. So we have a person with a microphone. If you want to raise your hand, he will find you at some point. Also, for our people online, you can direct your questions to the online moderator, and we'll try to get a couple in here. We're a little bit short on time, but so we have a few here. So we'll try to get a couple of questions, and we got one in the back.
Hi, yes. My name is Jose. I'm in the music business program, and I wanted to ask Fernando, so whenever you say you were getting your act together, did you did you get help from somebody else, like an accountant or something, or you just kind of looked at your expenses? And the reason why I'm asking is I want to see what opportunities there are out there for somebody with accounting and finance experience in the entertainment industry.
Well, I've had a CPA that has helped me with my business for years, and she's awesome, but she's not a financial advisor. She's a CPA. So they're different, and even what their functions for you are as a client. So no, really what I did is I just started working and paying. I just promised myself that I wasn't going to buy anything, and I cut my spending down. I cut my lifestyle down, and started using those funds to pay off those debts. And then about 6 months or so, maybe a year or so after we started paying things down, I was driving from LA to Vegas, and I heard Dave Ramsey on the radio, and I started listening to what he talks about, and I was thinking about I'm already doing what this guy says, but his system seemed to be far more organized and better. So I started doing what he said, and it just kind of accelerated that process. So, and the funny thing is, my family, my friends, they're all telling me that I'm crazy. Now they're all debt-free too.
It can't be real. It can't really happen. We have another one all the way in the back, I think.
How you doing? My name is Jawan, in music business. I just want to know, do you invest into anything, and if so,
What kind of investments are you talking about?
it can be anything, whether it's a side hustle that you have, like you invest into something and you resell it, or whether it be...
I'm pretty heavily invested into Stickman Sound.
Do you invest into any stocks or anything like that?
Yes, a few years ago, I started researching personal retirement because we're all freelancers and we don't have a boss to invest, which, by the way, those days are over anyway. Like the day of having the boss that's going to give you the retirement and the bennies and all that other stuff. Those days are over anyway. So you should really be looking into this stuff, whether you're getting a job or whether you're going to start your own company or be a freelancer. It's called personal finance for a reason. You should personally be doing it. So to answer your questions, yes, I do have IRAs set up for myself and my wife. I am currently not contributing to mine because of the loss of that big job, but my wife's is being funded currently every month. And as soon as our revenues at Stickman get back to where they should be, I'm going to go ahead and start contributing again. So yes, absolutely, and I advise you do the same. But I advise that you learn about it before you spend any money. Don't ever give any money to anybody to handle something that you don't understand. They should be teaching you, and if they're not teaching you, you shouldn't hire them.
You know, and that's a great point, though, because again, you know, people think, oh, if I go work for a big company, there'll be a 401k and I'll get some money out of it, whatever. But yeah, how much money do you get out of it? But for the freelancers, yeah, if they don't set up an individual retirement, an IRA, a Roth IRA, something for them, you know, when you're in your 20s, you think you're going to work forever. And then when you hit your 40s and 50s, you realize you're not. And if you don't have something building, you will work forever. And
I have had, and this is really sad, and you guys are not going to like to hear this at all, but I have had a lot of friends who have mentored me over the years who have been found dead in their hotel rooms because they were working way longer in life than they should have been working. And there's nothing worse than going on the air the same day that you find out that your video engineer didn't show up because he died in his kitchen. It's, you know, and he should have retired a long time ago. And I've had a lot of friends over the year where that happens too. I had one friend, camera operator, really, really good guy. I met him when he was in his 40s and I was in my 20s. I am now in my 40s and he's in his 60s. And when I first met him, he told me, he said, "Hey kid, don't be like me." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, I have this car obsession." And he does. He buys a new Corvette every year. His wife gets a new Audi every year. And twice a year, they go spend a week in Hawaii at like these crazy expensive resorts where like the spa is like right on the water and right. And that's great. If you can afford that and that's how you want to spend your money, I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money. But here's the funny thing. He's in his 60s now. He doesn't have a retirement. He's going to be one of those people that they find dead and they're calling him because he didn't show up to work. And the funny thing is, he was in his 40s, right? I started getting smart about that. I'm 42 this week. I got smart about this in my late 30s. I was like, 37, 38 years old when we kind of started this whole process. So it hasn't taken me very long to get to a point where I don't have to work and I've got my retirement. And although I can't retire today, I know that when I'm his age, I should have so much money in the bank that I'm only working by choice, right? So it's like, well, you dummy, why don't you take your own advice? Because he's a camera person and he's really, really good, which means he makes more money than I do. And his wife is a makeup artist who actually makes more money than he does because she's like a big celebrity makeup artist. They don't have any money. I was at a party a couple weeks ago with him for Super Bowl, and he's like, "Man, you're all set." And I was like, "Yeah, and you could be too."
And it doesn't matter the position. Like you said, you sometimes on a set you've got the actor making millions who's broke, guy laying cable set for life. Why? It's just making the right moves, making the smart moves. I'm getting a wrap-up sign. This has been awesome. I wish we had more time. Maybe next year we will have more time.
If anybody has questions about any of this is something that I'm actually very, very passionate about. So if you have questions about this, hit me up on an email, shoot me a messenger, what do you guys call them now? DMs on Facebook, Instagram, whatever.
And you can go to the Hall of Fame app and get all of his contact information. It's all right there for you.
I'm very easy to get a hold of, so please reach out.
So I want to, again, thank you guys so much for attending our session today. Especially want to thank future Hall of Famer, I can say that one last time, because then you will be a Hall of Famer, Fernando, for joining us today. Thank you so much. Really great knowledge, great valuable information from a guy who's done it. He's made the mistakes, and he's come out on top. And if he can do it, you can do it too.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.